I became interested in Cuban music particularly because of I met this Chilean guy in Rome actually, and he played me some salsa music and he said, listen to that. And he said, listen to the bass, listen to what the bass is doing. And I did, and I realized the bass wasn't playing on the one. You know, it was anything but. And I thought, this is so different. And what it does, it just makes it's on the up. You know, everything's on the uplift. You know, it's an incredible thing that happens when you move off the one, and it's all just about interlocking syncopations and etc. etc. But I mean, you grew up. You know, you kind of were a child in Cuba pre-revolution, weren't you?
Yes, when I was 6, I went to Cuba with my parents, my English father and my Colombian mother, and you know, 1957, and I actually have a model of the BOAC Stratocruiser that the actual plane I went on, I have on my desk. Actually, funny enough, it's in here, over there in the corner, so it's with me. You know, talk about nostalgia. And Stratocruiser, amazing plane. But yeah, so you know, the first time I heard Cuban music was when all those people who became famous later with the Buena Vista Social Club were at their prime, and you know, Celia Cruz and everybody, they were all in the clubs and the casinos. My mother, she had a guitar and she was having lessons, so that's how I learned to play guitar. And she started me off with Cuban folk songs and Spanish songs that are like evergreens now, you know, and stuff like that. So, and then the revolution happened, you know, and there's all scary fighting from our garden and shootouts, and really, you know, when you're that age, it sort of stays with you. And, you know, looking out the window, seeing people being shot and stuff like that, it's pretty heavy, but at the same time, incredibly exciting, because you can imagine, you know, a doco showing all this, but playing Cuban music, playing Latin music. And it is like sort of voodoo, and it's all tied in with you know, the religion, you know, and the African religion and everything. All the beats mean something. And so, yeah, it is incredibly complicated. And like on our track, we have Frank Portoundo, who is from Santiago de Cuba, playing bass. And I wanted him to play bass because I still can't understand what he's doing. I mean, it's like voodoo. It's wonderful, voodoo. But when it locks in with the rhythm, it's like fantastic.
So it was after meeting this Chilean guy, and so I just thought, I have to go to Cuba. I really want to try and understand this music. And the person I was living with at the time was an actress, and she knew Geraldine Chaplin. And Fidel was a very big fan of Charlie Chaplin. And so we just got absolute carte blanche. We had to go through Madrid, and we met Geraldine in her apartment, beautiful apartment. She was lovely. And she basically sweetened the whole thing so that we were treated really like honorary guests of Cuba when we got there. And we were sort of left to our own devices most of the time, but there were certain official functions that we were invited to. For example, we were invited to an afternoon sort of garden party, and it was very posh, and Los Van Van were playing. And so when I reference them in our track, I sing about Los Van Van. I actually saw them play in Havana in 1980, I think it was 1986 or 7 probably, when I went there. And the funny thing was, Phil, that, you know, there I was in Havana. I thought I was going to actually find, you know, the Cuban sound like all around me. It was actually really difficult to find really great musicians playing there, because a lot of them had left. You know, to be honest, a lot of them had scarpered off to New York or wherever.
Yeah.
And so, of course, there was still plenty going on, but it was hard to find. And I remember one day I was in old Havana, walking along through all the crumbling streets, and, you know, the beautiful really, but just crumbling old city. And I heard this music coming from this top floor of this building, and I climbed up these stairs. I was all by myself. And I got to the top, and there were 3 young Cuban guys practicing Proud Mary.
Mary, yeah, because they could hear it on the radio.
Yeah, And so, you know, there I was looking for the Cuban sound, and, you know, they're trying to play rock and roll, but it was pretty ironic and really sweet, actually. But anyway, it was an amazing trip, and yeah. But it was only this new stuff that we've done, Phil, was really, I think, the realization of that dream for me. And, you know, it's a hybrid, sure, but there's a lot there that's very authentic and very real. And that's what I was hoping to try and do, was to help create some kind of hybrid, you know. And so when I emailed you and said, have you got any slow Cuban or Latin grooves lying around? Because I was just thinking, we'd just gone into lockdown here in New Zealand, and it was very weird and very strange. You know, you have to sort of cast your mind back now because we're all so used to it. But when lockdowns first started, they were very strange.
They were.
You know,
it was very weird. Like other world.
Yeah, and kind of woozy. And so I thought, well, something slow would be good, you know. And then you sent me what became Vamos Despacio and Mal Sueño. And I started freestyling over those, and I had words to sing, and I had themes, and it all just started coming together. And it was really the realization of a very old, you know, that dream from the 80s.
And I mean, you went there just before what they call the special period. And that's when I went back, which is a few years later, 1990, the end of 1990, the beginning of 91. And the Berlin Wall had come down, there was no oil. So they call it special period because it was very difficult to travel around. And I went there on the invitation of a Cuban band, you know, all sponsored by the government. And we toured, although instead of being able to fly places, we had to go on a bus, and the roads are not the best in the world. And so it was very exciting to be back. And from that, then I started going back on a regular basis. And, you know, looking at poor Cuba at the moment, it's very difficult. They've been through ups and downs, but, you know, when you walk around the streets, it's the same thing. People are asking, you know, where am I going to get my next meal from? What's the price of fish? What's the price of chicken or something like that? You know, it really is difficult for them, you know. So fingers crossed that the Americans help out and Biden helps out in some way, because they've been up and down like a bloody roller coaster. And you know, so many people have to leave to try, and musicians especially. I have lots of them all over, dotted in Spain or in Canada and places like that, and in London. I mean, it's amazing actually that's why, you know, you get terrific Cuban musicians in London, and male and female.
I saw Celia Cruz and Tito Puente play at the Hammersmith Palais.
Yes.
I think that was in the 90s. I don't remember the year that she died, but she was well into her 70s, and it was just one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. You know, she just had so much life force and so much kind of, I don't know, it was kind of like erotic energy almost, you know, and just amazing performer. And Tito, of course, also equally charismatic and amazing, but there was also the crowd that kind of blew me away, because they were all Latinos. I was probably one of the few non-Latin people there, and non-Spanish speaking people there. And it was just a massive swirling, like incredible dancing and energy and life force. Yeah, so I hear what you're saying about the difficulties, and yeah, they've really been through it, historically speaking, you know.